Hey there, I'm Jenny T with SimpleSewingProjects.com, which is a blog where you'll discover lots of easy sewing projects, DIY projects, and a lot of patterns on how to sew different types of window treatments. Today is Q&A day, so I like to answer questions that are sent from me from my readers on all kinds of different things, from sewing projects, tips, problem with their existing project, etc. So if you do have a question for me that you'd like me to answer or to help you with something that's going on, whether it's with your machine, your project, fabric, you need an idea for your window or whatever it is, just send me an email at jennytsews@gmail.com. That's JENNYTSEWS@gmail.com, and I can answer that question for you, hopefully in a video like this, so that everyone can benefit. So today we're going to answer a reader. Her name is Patty, and she asks, "Hi Jenny, I was wondering if you could recommend a sewing machine. I'm a moderate to advanced sewer and I have an old Singer. It is starting to have some problems and I can never sew on knits without the thread breaking when the garment is stretched. There are a lot of neat looking machines today and I was wondering if you could tell me some of your favorites. It would be appreciated." Okay, so I'm going to do the best I can. First, just to answer your question, if you're wondering what sewing machine I use, I have a Viking. It's a Sapphire 850. I bought it, maybe 10 years ago now. And it's a beast and it's beautiful. And I'll tell you why I bought that particular machine as I go through some things. So it's hard for me to recommend. There's so many different brands and so many different types of machines out there. So it's really difficult for me to just say, oh, well, you should get this, because everybody has something unique about their sewing situation, their scenarios, right? You're either a beginner or an advanced, you have different types of projects that you work on. So I thought that I would go through a few things that I think about and what I have thought about when buying a machine, and what I also recommend to people when they're trying to figure out what they want to buy. And then it's kind of up to you at that point which brand you feel comfortable with and how much you want to invest. Okay, a Viking is not an inexpensive investment, but it is an investment because it's going to last forever as long as you take care of it. Okay, now it's funny you said old Singer, because my very first sewing machine was actually a borrowed machine from my mother. It was a Singer and it was a tank. I mean, it's a beautiful piece of machinery. In fact, she still has it. It must be 50 years old. And she takes beautiful care of it. It is a machine, and it does whatever she needs it to do. And there's no computer in it. You know, this is before the computerized sewing machines, right? So whatever you invest in, keep in mind that it's not supposed to be something that you're buying for the next couple years. It's usually going to be something that you're going to buy and hopefully have for many, many decades. Just make sure that you remember it is a piece of machinery and you need to keep it maintained and cleaned on a yearly basis, depending on how often you sew. Okay, and I can tell you I'm not the best at this. I kind of put things off, but it also causes problems later on. So if you're going to invest a few $1,000s into a machine, you better make sure you take care of it, right? Okay, so let's talk about some of the things that you should consider when you're looking for a machine that's for you. First of all, budget's always a serious consideration. Okay, these are not inexpensive machines, and so that might dictate what you're going to buy. I do want to say though, you know, if you can, try to steer away from the cheap machines. These are great for very lightweight sewing, and for, say, for children, if you want to get them sewing and you don't want to spend a lot of money on something. They usually have very basic stitches. They're usually manual with a dial, and they're designed for very light sewing. So first you need to think about what you're going to be willing to invest. I use the word invest because it is an investment. Okay, it's an investment in your joy of sewing. It could be also an investment in a future career for you. I don't know. You need to consider what you're going to be sewing. Okay, so my first machine that I bought myself after I had borrowed my mother's for a while was a Bernina. And it was designed, it wasn't the one that was an embroidery machine. They have all kinds, but it was a digital, sewing machine, and it was a little bit smaller. And I did that because I had the intentions of taking it with me to classes. I wanted to learn how to do a lot of patchwork at the time, and I wanted to attend a lot of classes. So the size mattered. I also didn't have a lot of room. I didn't have a sewing room that was dedicated to a table and machine. So it needed to be something I could put away very easily, something else to consider. I don't need, I still don't need a lot of fancy stitches. I just don't. A lot of the computerized machines today offer you tons and tons of stitches, and if you go into a showroom, they're going to show you all these wonderful machines that have all these amazing different types of decorative stitches and embroidery type of features. Again, it has to do with everything that you are going to be doing. If you are unlikely going to be embroidering or really not doing very much decorative stitching, then you don't need any of that stuff. What you need is to know that the machine runs beautifully, handles tension and pressure, hopefully in a smart way, like the Viking does. The Viking will actually adjust the pressure of the presser foot based on what you're putting underneath there. It's really, really nice. And how well it handles the types of fabric that you are likely going to be sewing. So if you are someone that likes to sew apparel and you have a lot of stretchy fabric, you want to make sure that you're getting a machine that is designed more for apparel. Do you need a long arm where you're going to be using things that you need to, sew collars and sleeves? Or do you need something that's going to be nested into a table with a large flat table because you're going to be doing more like quilting and draperies? Okay, those are things you need to think about. You also want to make sure that you have enough accessories that go with that brand of machine. Okay, there are some brands out there that are less expensive, still excellent machines, but they don't have a whole lot of accessories. So it really depends again on what you want to do. I like the different types of feet I can put on my machine. I like my ruffle foot, I like my blind hem stitch foot, and I like to know that there's other things out there that I can get. I'm a big accessory person when it comes to my sewing machine, and I would much rather have fancier feet than fancier stitches, but that's just me. Also, the reason that I went from the Bernina to the Viking is because I was breaking my Bernina. The Bernina was designed to handle patchwork and light quilting. Well, I was killing it because I do a lot of drapery sewing, and at the time when I was doing a lot of videos and teaching, I was running that thing ragged and really forcing thick layers of fabric and upholstery type of fabric through it. It can't handle it. So if you are going to be going into doing more sewing with window treatments, thicker layers, leather, something that's really going to push the machine, you got to make sure you invest in a machine that can handle it. And anybody that's going to be showing you in a dealer showroom should know what type of machine you should be using for what you're going to be sewing. So if you are going to be sewing more of window treatments, that kind of a thing, you can't go with an inexpensive lightweight. You've got to go with something that's a lot more heavy duty, can handle the strength of the needle pushing through all those layers of fabric, and it's not going to break on you all the time. Another thing to consider is your maintenance and warranty on the machine. It's one thing to be able to go out and buy it. So I was very fortunate to have a dealership for our dealership. It's not like a car, but it's kind of like a car, for the Viking. And therefore they also offer in-house maintenance and warranty, which is really important. Not every shop handles cleaning and maintenance of a particular type of brand of machine. So you got to make sure that if you're going to buy something that you know where to take it if it breaks, and if you need to have it maintained and cleaned, okay? So that's also really important. And another thing is to consider where you're gonna buy it. Unfortunately, many people live out in more remote areas or in areas that don't have a lot of high-end brands to choose from. It's just the way it is. So you can try to purchase online. I don't recommend it. I recommend that you either go to an expo where they're going to be having lots of different vendors there that can show you different types of machines, so you could actually sit at one and play with it and get the feel for if it's right for you. A lot of the computerized machines can be a little overwhelming at first. I encourage you not to make that your decision factor as far as the machine itself. You want to make sure that the machine is going to handle the type of projects that you want, has the type of stitches that you are looking for. If you're going to be doing embroidery, you want to make sure that it can do that. And if you're tending to do something that are more larger size projects like quilts and draperies, you want to make sure that the arm is wider. So one of the problems I had with my Bernina was that I didn't have a lot of room in there between the needle and the machine. And so I had to really constantly roll things up really tight and slide them in there so I can run the needle in the direction that I wanted it to run. And that was a real pain in the neck. And I know you have to do that no matter what, but when I realized that, I know that now I choose a wider machine. So I have a lot more space in there, and that's just by far better. So again, I have the Viking Sapphire. I don't represent them or anything like that. I'm just letting you know what I use, and of course Viking's an excellent brand. Super. So with all that said, I hope that these things were helpful to you. Again, it's going to come down to budget. It's going to come down to what you can buy locally, probably, okay? And then it's just what you want in the machine, because there's so many different exciting machines out there. Don't get swept away with all the features when you're likely not going to get all those, so it might save you a few $100s if you choose something that has less stitches. Because the reality is, the stitches that I use, straight stitch, the blind hem stitch, the overlock stitch, love the overlock stitch. That's really about it. Everything else, I don't really use that much of. So there goes to show you that if I just had a machine with 3 stitches, I probably could sew everything, right? So I hope that was helpful. And there is a couple links I found out there that actually do a lot of really great, helpful reviews on different types of brands of sewing machines. I will leave that link that's below the video. You can check that out. Again, I don't have any association with these different sites there, but they do provide a lot of really good information that you can look at as well, based on what I've shared with you here. So I hope that was helpful. If you have a question, don't hesitate to send me a message. I would love to be able to answer your question on a video like this. Thanks for watching. Again, I'm Jenny T with SimpleSewingProjects.com. Take care.